Yeah, I was telling these guys before you arrived, my first paycheck in skateboarding was a 411 opener that I filmed of Jack Curtin on the Gold Rail. The check was for $175. Like, that was my first check, and it was just like, whoa, I'm gonna do this forever. Hey, welcome guys. My name is Barton Damer. I'm the owner and founding artist of a studio called Already Been Chewed. We do design, motion graphics, and 3D animation for a variety of brands, especially in the skateboard industry.
Oh my!
Whoa. I drew growing up. My mom is an art teacher. Van Gogh, Picasso, that stuff doesn't really appeal to me. The art that inspired me was like the Powell Peralta graphics. Like, I grew up drawing Tony Hawk's skulls, the Ray Barbie rag doll. Like, those are the things I would sketch in my notebook. As it went further into it, I always loved Don Pendleton and the artwork that he was doing for Alien at that time. Like, those things were super inspiring to me. I never thought that I would do graphic design in the skateboard industry though. Like, it wasn't even on my radar, really. And after I blew out my ACL in college, my parents made it really clear, you're there to get a degree. You're not there to film skateboarding and blow out your ACL. Like, I started picking up filming and editing. I started filming guys like Jack Curtin, Bobby Worst, and we would make videos. I was filming and editing the skateboard videos for Skate Night there. I quickly discovered that I don't like sifting through footage and necessarily videography unless it's of really talented skaters, but I didn't see myself going and shooting weddings with that or anything like that. As I was working on editing these skate videos, I realized that my favorite part of making the skate videos was animating the intros. So like, in these videos, I was piecing together things using iMovie, and I was using graphics I had created in Photoshop, exporting them out as like PNGs, and I would have them slide in as layers over the top, because I didn't even know what motion graphics was at the time. And so I'm like putting together skate videos in iMovie. Eventually I learned Final Cut Pro. I started seeing other videos like One Step Beyond, the audio video, and I was like, what is that? Like, I didn't even know what motion graphics was at that time. People started telling me that I was really good at motion graphics, but it wasn't because I knew After Effects that great. It was just because I was already a good designer, and I just started moving my stuff around in After Effects. Eventually realized my work felt very flat and two-dimensional, and wanted to figure out, why does some of this other work look better, and lighting interacts with their renders and things like that. And that's when I discovered 3D animation and 3D motion graphics using Maxon Cinema 4D. Like, it's all I wanted to learn. I will often tell people that ask me, like, well, you know, how do you know what you want to do? Like, how do you know if this is the thing you want to do or not? And I will tell them, you know it's what inspires you if you're up at 2 a.m. still doing it. And that was Cinema 4D for me. Again, coming from an artistic background and being a graphic designer already, the very first project that I did in Cinema 4D went viral. I actually got an email from the CEO of Maxon that makes the software. I was like scared to death when I got that email. I was like, oh man, he knows I've got like a cracked copy of Cinema 4D. Like, I am in so much trouble right now. But his email was the opposite of that. His email was like, this is gorgeous. He's like, how did you do it? And do you have any interest in speaking for Maxon at various events? And I was like, yeah, I do. I'm gonna have to learn your software before I speak at the first event, but yeah, let's do this. So I started speaking for Maxon and traveling to different venues, which forced me to have to learn more and more and more about it. Learning this software, getting better at it, creating art, and doing it for local skate shops, local skate brands. And so those things were starting to take off for me. So I actually started doing motion graphics for all the KO brands. When Matt Miller turned pro, there was this spot where all of these boards started dropping out of airplanes and they started hitting the ground around them. And that was one of the first things that I got paid for in the skate industry to do motion graphics for. and I was doing all different intros for like DGK, Gold Wheels, things like that. That led to creating artwork for Supra Footwear. Worked on the Eric Ellington shoe release, worked on the Stevie Williams shoe release. And this was all while I still had like a day job. I got to a point where I was turning down what I felt were dream gigs. Financially, it was making sense. So a little over 11 years ago, I launched out on my own and started Already Been Chewed. Fun fact, Donnie used to own a skate shop, and about 6-7 years ago, he came to me, and I was basically a solo freelance artist at the time. And he was like, hey man, I wanna help you, I wanna do sales, really dig the work that you're doing. And so he came on board and started doing business development for me. And so we have a lot of our roots in skateboarding as a result, having worked with Street League Skateboarding over the years. So I flew out the first season as a fan, and I just sat in the stands and I thought to myself, I'm gonna do all of these Jumbotron motion graphics for Street League. I don't know how, but I gotta do it. Street League tweeted that they were looking for interns to come on staff. Well, I didn't want to be an intern. I've got a family at this point. I've got a business to run, but I knew they'd be checking emails. So I was like, all right. I put together a proposal about how I'm a professional 3D motion graphics artist that does broadcast graphics, but I'm a skateboarder. And I can tell non-skateboarders are doing your graphics package for TV right now. So I sent that email, and then I was like, well, wait a second. What if I just email Rob? So I started guessing email addresses. I get an email back from one of the email addresses, and it simply says, let's do this. And I'm like, let's do what? I just suggested a year's worth of work. Somebody's messing with me because they know I was just trying to get a hold of Rob. 24 hours later, Brian Atlas emails me, and he says something to the effect of like, congratulations, you have a better chance of winning the lottery than you do of getting Rob's attention via email. But for whatever reason, he clicked your email, he looked at your work, he loves it, and he told me to get something going with you. So that had happened about 6 months before the United Nations Berrics trip. And we still hadn't worked together. I just had this super exciting email, but nothing actually solidified from it. And a good 6 months went by. So the United Nations thing happens. We win the trip to go out there. And so I hit up Brian Atlas and I'm like, I'm gonna be in LA. I'm gonna be at the Berrics. Why don't I just come over and meet with you in person while the guys are filming? Because I knew I didn't have any real obligations. I wasn't trying to get tricks. We were filming at the old Berrics. Deerdick Enterprises was across the bridge. It's like 2 blocks. Brian Atlas was like, yeah, come over. And so the guys started filming at the Berrics. I rolled over on my skateboard, went over to the Fantasy Factory, but Brian Atlas just kind of looks at me head to toe, and he says, oh yeah, Rob's gonna like working with you. Because he could tell I was a real skateboarder at that time. And that sealed the deal. And we started working with Street League Skateboarding as a result of getting that in-person meeting with Brian Atlas that day through the United Nations trip.
As simple as a cold email, but it's the ambition, you know.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it should be a testament, like if you really want to create your own path and take these leaps, as I like to say, a quantum leap, you got to take a shot at finding something that could really change your trajectory to actually change your trajectory, you know what I mean?
These shelves are full of all different products that we've done campaigns for. So this is not necessarily just a collection of shoes, but every single shoe that you see in here, we've done product launch campaigns for. So for instance, we've got Jamie Foy, the laceless shoe. We recently did the campaign for this release, working with the team over at New Balance Numeric. A few years ago, we did the Brandon Westgate shoe release. Over here, we have the Tiago shoe. This was a new campaign that we did recently for Tiago's shoe release. One of my personal favorite skaters. Love the pop that he has. Being an original East Coast skater myself, we kind of pride ourselves on the pop. This one in particular, super fun to be able to work on. The Vans 50th anniversary of the shoe called the Era. We were able to work with the Vans team to create all of the campaign assets for that. So that included 3D motion graphics, storefront displays, and things like that. We recently worked on a Cariuma slip-on shoe, and this was actually one of my favorite 3D animated spots that we've ever created. Cariuma has such a great brand with kind of like the nature and the rainforest vibe of things that they do. And so we were really excited to work with them and push ourselves as like 3D artists in the way that we could create a rainforest, animate it, and have that be part of the creative for that spot. So it's rare that you could claim something as like your favorite project because we've worked on so many, but that truly is, at this point, my favorite piece that we've created as a studio. Being a skateboarder transitions directly into motion graphics and business in general. It sounds kind of corny, but like the way that skaters view the world is completely different. And so I feel like the way that we're viewing and telling the stories about these products is completely different than the way somebody else that's not a skateboarder might approach it. Skateboarders have always been at the forefront of art and fashion and music and things like that, dating all the way back to like the skateboard graphics that we talked about, whether it was the early days of like, those were so like trend-setting and groundbreaking. And for me, motion graphics is the new version of that. Like if you think about that, motion graphics and skateboarding continue to evolve and be pushed, whereas skateboard graphics aren't necessarily evolving from where they were 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And so this is just kind of like the new artistic medium for me as a skateboarder and for skateboarders. I think it's the perfect outlet.
Dude,
Holy
that
smokes.
was so good.